There we go. Nice work on doing the 10 questions. Raf, I know you didn't get a chance to look at them. That's all right. But most people got through them. The goal with that was just to get those 10 questions and get them thinking. I think there's a couple that we can tweak on each of yours just to kind of tighten them in a little bit. But overall, really, really solid stuff. And the idea with that is to try and give you a stable base for next year so that you can start to plan the themes out and you can start to dig in so that every piece of content that you do actually just fits into kind of one of these buckets. I've got something else for you today that I want to just give you as a bit of an exercise, which brings the two together. It's actually something that you tend to do when you're planning marketing campaigns out overall. And it's been in books, like I think Amy Schmittauer's put it in her book, and it's in 1,001 other different types of books, but I'm going to kind of talk through that in a second as well. But before I do that, we'll do the usual. So Andrew, I'm going to come to you and just ask what's going on. How's the win? How's the challenge? How's the dog?
The dog's good. She's 28.8 pounds.
Oh, just a little lighter than me.
And despite a very challenging, sad week, I was able to submit my proposal to France.
Good, so congratulations to Nice.
Yep, to Nice. And yeah, I had a challenge for whatever reason. My version of Safari wouldn't work for the link that you needed to just go in and build, your profile to submit. So I did a whole thing on my phone and it worked. It wasn't my ideal, but it worked.
That's good, Dan. Well done.
And then I finally set up time with my designer to go line by line through the contract. And, there were some mistakes in it and just some things. And so she was able to fix all that. And so good. I'm feeling better. My goal this week is to go through her inventory of, questions and get that back to her, at the latest Friday.
Good.
The challenge for me, I just had a huge aha moment. I keep feeling like I'm reacting to life instead of, being able to have time to get this done. And then, like in my mind, I compartmentalize my work from being a parent. And I just realized like, this is it, this is what it's like. Like there is no separate, you just gotta squeeze it in. And it was pretty challenging last week, but my son, I let Mark know, my son had a 12-year-old friend that was killed in an accident. And I was managing that on top of being alone. My husband was traveling. But we got it done. And so my challenge is just remembering, like, I just still have to get stuff done. And I think at times I'm overextended at the school. But the good news is my Wellbeing Wednesday is starting to take off. I think I had 10 people across school divisions show up on Wednesday. So that was pretty good.
Oh, wow, that's good. And how long have they been running now? What is that, a couple of months?
2 weeks, maybe? They didn't start up till October, so it's only a couple weeks, actually.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good. And what's the how are they getting the traction, do you think?
I think more people are remembering it and just showing up. And then the more people that show up, they tell somebody else, hey, I did it and that was fun. And, it's been great because you meet parents from across the schools and it's good. It's healthy. It's a great way. It's 30 minutes after drop off and then we get on our way with our day. So
it's kind of that back to that presence promise idea, like that I introduced in, I can't remember, I was talking about it somewhere. Can't remember. Can't remember where that was. But it was just the idea of being at the same place at the same time, all the time. We talked about it on the Mastermind. I thought it must have been on my podcast. And it was, I think it's an important thing to do that because most people, I used to say it to Marco and Louisa with the Facebooks, you could do it for a year and not got any viewership, but it's because people aren't developed into thinking that they need to be at that place every time. So if the one time they turn up and you're not there, that's it. They're back to square one. They don't, they're not going to come back again, are they? So it can take time to build that traction up. So well done for sticking to that. I think that's number one. It's great that it's happening, but number two, I think it's great that you're doing it locally as well. I'm a massive fan of that.
Yeah. And when there is a change of schedule at the school, I always post something at the meeting place so that if someone does show up, they understand they should either be in the meeting at the school or something else is happening. And I'm also collecting the emails of the people that are participating. So
Good. That's a big step. Compared that to you know, being in the right zone to do that last year. That's a huge step for you. You know, even just like collecting the emails and stuff, like it's become more, this is my brand, this is me, and I'm doing it for a reason, not just I'm doing it to be nice and to help people, but actually I'm going to do that. And also I'm going to build something on the back of that as well. So well done. That's a really good move.
yeah. And my other thing is I just picked up Dare to Lead by Brene Brown. So I'm trying to model that too in difficult conversations that you have to have with parents sometimes.
Good. I've been reading I've not finished it yet. You know that strengths-based leadership book that we talked about?
Oh, good.
Still not got through it yet because it's like one of those where you notate and you sort of like, I'll maybe read like a chapter a month.
Yeah.
It's quite involved, deep stuff. But it's good. It's
That's my thing.
It is. It's so good. I can see why you like it.
Yeah. That's my brand right there. It's strengths-based. I mean, you can't lead unless you're taking good care of yourself, and you can't be kind to yourself unless you're tuned into that. So
yeah, no, it's good. I think it's something that more people can do with, but I think it's difficult to get into it because it feels like you're almost conceding that you're not very good at it, even though it's just a different way of looking at it. I think that's like a mental thing. But good, well done. That's a really strong week. I know it's not been an easy one. So you know, well done for being able to take the positives out of it as well. And stick with all that. So top stuff. Rick, I'm going to come to you next. Apart from the foot, how's the week been? Wins, challenges, and so on. You did a really good job of the theming work as well, and the questions. Nice work on that.
Thanks. Things are good overall. Yeah, the toe thing kind of stopped other stuff, but where are we? Good Man Project, definitely that moved forward in a way I wasn't expecting. They not only wanted me to like contribute articles, they want me to be a weekly columnist for them. So
well done. That's a huge win.
Yeah. So and they came back to me, and I wanted to throw this out to the group. And I think it's the right direction, but I just want to kind of throw it out there. They need a theme for your column, and the editor that I wrote my last article with, she said, I really think your theme should be life uncloseted, and I kind of agree with that. I think I can wrap everything around that, talking about men and the different ways they can uncloset themselves, and you know, I can weave the theme together. So I'm kind of leaning in that direction, but toss that out to the group. Then Drew and I we were supposed to shoot the video for our thing on Friday, but I was not in any shape to do that. So we're going to shoot that today for the sales page and start moving that forward. And that's about it. I don't feel any big challenges. I mean, yes, I loved getting organized with that exercise, and I definitely have a lot of content I can play with now. And even as I step up to the Good Men Project, I don't know if I sent the rest of the year. I did one for themes for the rest of the year too, but week by week. So I'm definitely going to dive in this week with that. And
good.
Feel good about writing. I mean, I know that's always where I've had some opportunity to really get my name out there and get clients. So I'm excited to get back to doing it. So that's it.
Good. Well done, man. And it's interesting to see as well, because, you know, I feel like the way that you put yourself out there with this content for the Good Man Project and for everything else that you've done on your own stuff, it feels a bit more naturally you. You know, and the second that you step into that, these things happen. So I think it's just, you know, where you were a couple of months ago with that kind of, okay, should I really be talking and being like this strong? You know, should I be this version of Rick? I think that's got to give you some confidence that people want that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, exactly.
So well done on that. And just to the point of, you know, going into the life uncloseted theme, I can't see any reason not to do that. I think you can bring everything into that. You know, everything. We talked about it before, didn't we? About sort of, you know, everything from the macro level, like the countries in a closet, down to Trump being in a closet, down to the university people.
Right.
everything
kind of gives me a broad place to go, and it doesn't mean that, I mean, I can see lots of stuff working in that way. Plus it ties everything back. It can tie everything back to the podcast as well. And even those things that we did, everything will contribute to either writing or the podcast or anything I'm doing. So.
Exactly. I like that. Yeah, it works really well. And part of your process, really. I mean, how often is the column? Is it a weekly or a monthly thing?
Yeah, weekly.
Well, that's kind of nice because you can just throw that into your development process. You know, next week I want to talk about the content dev process in more depth. And for you, you just bolt that on. You just plan it in. Bye, Anna. See ya. You just plan it into building it, and you create 2 things for you and 1 for them. You know, it's 2 for you, 1 for them. So I think getting on top of it and using those themes as well.
Well, and I think the themes also help. It's not only 2 for me and 1 for them, but then I can just take something and slightly pivot it to work on LinkedIn, or just use one of those as something for LinkedIn. So, and I've gotten really tight on where I know I want to have stuff show up. So, anyway, it's all good.
Well done, dude. Yeah, really top work. It's nice to see you. I think you've known where the brand is and where the kind of the revenue is. It feels like you've just not quite known where to focus that marketing stuff. So that's excellent. Yeah, well done on that one. That sounds good. And we'll probably come back to that in a bit. Like I said, I want to talk about a little bit more on the content development process today. Anyway, it's kind of a 3-part thing: last week, this week, and next week. Want to just kind of top and tail that. So we'll get to that in a sec. So thank you, my man. Raf, over to you, the commuting maestro. How's maestro?
I'll tell you what, man, this thing is getting old of juggling so many things at one time. I'm driving the kids to school. We did here in the United States, they're doing this thing. I don't know if they do in the UK, but for Halloween, they call it Trunk or Treat. And I set up a Super Mario booth yesterday. So basically, I brought up my old Nintendo action set, and then the new Nintendo digital one, where it's like yay big and it has all the little games inside of it. Digital, original Nintendo. Anyway, so I set up a Super Mario booth, and I'm getting old to the point where whenever I do anything, like the next morning, I struggle. So, but moving on. Professionally, I have a lot of changes, and unfortunately, it affects Serve. Serve's always at the tail end of this, and my future goal is that I want to have Serve at the front end, making the waves, not receiving the waves. But, I've always kind of shared with you guys that my position, my day job is real challenging, and I always feel like I'm all over the place, where I went to my management, and I said, listen, I cannot be in this position anymore. Like, it causes instability in my professional life, meaning on other things I want to do, i.e. Serve, and it causes instability in my personal life. So we need to figure something out, or I'm going to resign. And they actually, took it really seriously. I was pretty bold, and using Rick's terms, making bold moves there. I basically went up to him. I said, listen, I can't do this anymore if it's going to continue this way. So the season of change that I'm in right now is at my professional position. So it doesn't vary. My duty title is not changing, but I'm going to now be more in operational setting. I'm going to be managing the ground system. So the outlook for it is very positive, because it's going to be a 9-to-5. And before, I would dread having a 9-to-5, but it's going to be typical government employee 9-to-5. You get in there in the early mornings, you check things out, and you kind of just monitor things all day. So during work hours, I'll have a lot of brain space to really execute, to double down. I have one laptop, serve laptop. I have a tremendous learning curve, which doesn't really match up with my desire to launch Serve here in a few days. So that's my life, my commuting life, back and forth. So my challenge continues to be this balance, work-life balance, day job balance, and life with big family balance. So that's my continued challenges. Wins, I really don't have any big wins other than my professional setting is going to change to something that's more palatable that I can potentially see myself doing for 2 to 3 years while we are growing served, and served is becoming positive, because right now we're pre-revenue, but positive revenue. And the biggest challenge is this one. And, my rebellious self says, don't do it. But I have 3 meetings that I'm supposed to be at on Mondays at 11. This one being what I feel is the most important one. But this one doesn't pay the bills just yet. And so I have 2 other meetings that I'm supposed to be at 11. So these are the things that I get placed. And I'm like, how am I supposed to be 1 in 2 places at once, and how am I supposed to be at 3 places at once? So I wanted to attend this one today, kind of as if I go radio silent for a while, that's why. It's because I'm supposed to be doing 2 other meetings on Mondays at 11. And I'm not asking the group to change the time, so that's not what I'm saying. I'm just sharing with the group that that's what my unfortunate circumstance is going to be.
Well, that's going to be a challenge for you.
Unless I get a deputy.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Sorry, man. You just keep breaking up, so I thought you'd done. My bad.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it is a bit of a challenge for you, but we'll see. We'll bring it in. I think we'll just see what we can do. If it needs to be discussed, a tweak to it, we'll just find something that works for everyone. So we'll see. We'll figure that out.
Okay. Yeah, and again, I'm not asking the group for that. I'm just saying, these are challenges that I have to deal with, and like Andrea was saying, and Rick is saying, life. I get straight out of this group, so I might have to find a deputy or an assistant and assign them to go to the other meeting, so I go to this one. I don't know. I haven't figured it out yet. I don't know what my power is just yet. So in the near future, I might go a little radio silent, or just show up late. I'll try to manage it, figure it out.
Okay, cool, man. Well,
that's my biggest challenge right now.
Well, hey, Ralph, I just want to say something, man. I mean, this is what this group is about. Yeah. So you need to ask for what you need, bro. I mean, I think the rest of us are somewhat a little more flexible. So if you need it, then let us kind of help and bend. I mean, as long as you don't bend my freaking big toe, we're good, man.
You can bend that yourself.
I can't bend it myself. That's the problem. But yeah, I mean, I think this is something that we need to lean in. I mean, I'm learning more and more every time I lean in and ask for what I need. Then amazing stuff happens. So, and of course, as a man, we don't know how to do that very well. But
yeah, I agree.
Well, thank you for that. Yeah, that is. Thank you. So. Yeah, let me get an outlook and see how it looks, and then I can say, hey, listen, earlier or later. I don't know. That's the thing, is I don't know exactly what the landscape looks like right now, so I'm not prepared to ask for anything. But I do appreciate that, and I'll keep it in mind.
Yeah, do, man, do. You keep breaking up really badly. I think you're just frozen now. But that's good. We heard.
Oh man, I'm in these backcountry woods.
That's all right. You keep coming in and out of it, but that's all good. Well, I mean, just to reinforce this whole quote unquote launch thing for Serve. All you need to do is the minimum. Just when it comes to Vets Day and so on, so all you have to do is just keep hammering, get on, give one. Just be as present as you can. Do more of the Facebook lives, do more of the Instagram live stuff that you did. You don't have to go big. Look at me, I'm launching a podcast and all that stuff. All you need to do is let people know, and Veterans Day is the day to do it. So just do, as long as you're doing something, that's the only thing you need to worry about. It's not about getting 10 podcast episodes out or, of a polished, edited vlog. It's just be live. That's all you need to do.
All right.
Good.
All right. Well, good. Well, thank you for that. You know how to calm my nerves. That's for definite.
No, that's good, man. Just stick to what you're doing and just be present. That's all you need to do. Cool. All right. Well,
yeah. So actually, I do have a win. Hang on. I do have a win. Give me a win.
Go on, win.
Yeah. Well, I got a win at the Halloween thing. I passed out 4 get one give ones. So I am actively doing that. So I continuously pass out at least 5 to 10 stickers a day. So that's actually something that I am doing.
Good. Yeah, that is a win as well. I mean, that's not an easy thing to do, is to give out that many stickers a day. You know, so stick to that as much as you can.
Yeah. Okay.
Like I said on Veterans Day, you know, just try and get a way to get them to people as well. Even if you're going to mail them out, you know, try and get a way. That's probably the next easiest thing, like the path of least resistance, is get some way of getting them to people that you can't do that to. That just might be worth considering. Andrea.
Hey, Raf, I have a friend that I would love you to send one to, because he's a vet, he's a stud, he's Army, and he's going through serious cancer. And I was telling you about Roots for Boots, that organization in Pennsylvania. They came and helped, you know, refinish part of his barn at his house because he can't. He's still going to work every day. He's living his life, and he's living fully. But there's just some things he's just too tired to do. But I would love you to send something to him. And
if you give me his full name and snail mail, I'll get it out.
Okay.
It's actually a lot of fun where I'm writing these people these little notes, and it's fun. I don't know. I'm finding joy in writing people notes, like little handwritten notes. Like Carm, I wrote Carm this little note, like, you better be smiling and holding up your stickers the next mastermind. You know, little things like that, and it's a lot of fun.
Well, this guy played football at my college, and I was his trainer.
Oh, okay.
He's rock solid. I would love for his family to be served.
Okay.
Know?
Yeah, so we'll do that.
All right. They have 2 boys and mom, dad, and 2 boys. Okay.
Well, send me the info via Slack, and then I'll get it out, and then I'll put that you've been served by proxy from Andrea Frank. So so we'll do it together.
Oh, you're the best. All right, I just pinged him to get his address. So
cool, awesome.
That's cool.
Nice, I love that. In fact, I think if you can try and extend that kind of sentiment, Raf, as well, that should be something you're trying to capture. You know, that kind of. I've got a friend who wants this. Not only to get one, give one, but you know, I've got a friend of a friend who wants this. You know, that's a really nice way of expanding that out. And just literally every time you go live or you post something, just say, if you know anyone that would appreciate this, let me know. You just it's only one extra sentence that you need to say or type, and it will help that to.
Right, because someone has a friend or a brother or a sister or an uncle that served, and they might say, "Oh, this is how I can engage with this group." That's actually really, really neat.
Perfect. Yeah. Okay, so good updates all around. I wanted to dig in a little bit further to the what we did last week. So you put together the 10 questions. So this, to be clear on that was 10 questions that you think people will be asking you or the other kind of leaders in the industries that you're in about your industry next year, like how to do things, what to do, what's the shape of the industry, what's it going to look like, and so on and so forth. The goal of that really is to start to then figure out a bit of a plan for next year, so that you're not on the back foot, so that if you've got 20 minutes free, you know you can be doing something. It's not a case of having to then plan it out. So what I want to try and do is, like I said, kind of a 3-pronged approach. I wanted to get those 10 questions done. Then what I want to do is talk to you today about developing some kind of types of content. And then next week, I'm going to talk about the content development process. It's going to be the one that we use at podcast websites, and the one that I use for my own stuff. And kind of bring these 2 things together into that process, so that you can create some really good content. Because I think one of the big things that you've got to focus on next year, everyone, is increasing the audience that you've got and turning them into not just kind of passive consumers, but actually engaged people with you. That's a huge, huge thing. So today I want to kind of chat through this bucketing idea. And it's a concept that's been around forever. But I want to give you some stability and a bit of a framework so that you're not wondering what type of content am I creating this week. So when it comes to content, there's that many things that you can do. You know, there's that many types of content that you can do. And I always find the best type of content is something that kind of gets branded a little bit. So you think of I could call my Facebook Live just a normal weekly Facebook Live. I could just say it's a Facebook Live. But I don't. I call it the free coaching Friday. So it's got a thing. It's got a box that it goes, and it's wrapped in something. 7-minute mentor. I could call it anything. I could call it literally anything. But it's a box. It's the 7-minute mentor. You get exactly what it says on the tin, and it annoys the hell out of me that it's rounded up to 8 minutes on podcast players. But it's a thing. Okay. So what I want you to do this week is create, I'm going to say like 4 kind of buckets of content, and then try and brand them a little bit. You know, don't have to be too clever with this, but try and create 4 buckets of content. Now you can do this in a couple of different ways. You could do, you could come at it from different angles. So what you could do with this one is you could say, I've got 10-minute Tuesday, where I'll do 10 minutes of something on a Tuesday, and it's just 10-minute Tuesday, or 2-minute Tuesday, or 20-minute Tuesday. And then you've got like tutorial Thursday. So you kind of break it down, you know, different days, different things. Or what you could do to make it a little easier on yourself, if you think about it, there's usually 4 or 5 weeks in a month. So what you can do is come up with a different type of content per week. Okay? And the idea of this is that you've come up with 1 question per month. If you've got these 4 or 5 buckets of content, you can take that 1 question and you can use it 4 times in different ways. So actually all your content's taken care of really easily, but it's really good on topic stuff that interlinks into each other. So an example of this would be some of the stuff that I'm developing for the video stuff that we're doing. I know that throughout the week, throughout the month, on 1 week, I will do a tutorial. It will be a very specific, this is a how I've done this. Okay. So if you think of my personal brand, the tagline is the Savvy Founders Field Guide to Building a Bootstrapped Business. That's the tagline. Okay. That's the new brand tagline. So on a Tuesday or a Thursday or whatever, each week, I'll put out a video or a podcast or some content, but it will be a tutorial. Week 1, it will be a tutorial. How I introduced Bonjoro into my business in order to cut churn down. So it'll be very specific. The week after, it will be some kind of lifestyle tip. So it's very specific. So we've got a tutorial, then we've got a lifestyle bucket. And the lifestyle bucket would take that same thing, but it would turn it around and put it into this little kind of lifestyle box. So that title for that video or for that blog post might be something like the top 3 ways that I switch off and stop worrying about losing customers on a Friday night. You know, so that becomes a lifestyle thing. Then there'll be 1 bucket which is dispelling startup myths or founders myths. So it would be something like it would be something along the lines of here are the 2 ways that I've decided. Here are the 2 ways that you'll be getting wrong information about why people are leaving your company. So you'll turn that into a myth, and then you'll take a question. So week 4 would be a founder's question. So Rick, you might ask a question. All right, okay, you've talked about churn. Actually, how do I stop people unsubscribing from my email list? So I'll take the question from the audience. So I've got these 4 buckets: tutorials, lifestyle tips for founders, founders questions, and then dispelling myths. So I want you guys to come up with 4 or 5 buckets and types of content. Okay. Now, the problem that you find with this is that the first draft of these buckets, when you really think about it, they're normally the same thing. They're normally just a blog post or a tutorial. So I want to go really specific with this one. And I want you to start getting creative with things. So start thinking about the types of content that you can do. You can do like a case study, a comparison post. You could do an interview. You could do an introduction to another person's content. You could do a commentary, an op-ed. You could do a bit of a rant or a riff like you do, Rick, on your podcast. Try and think about what these things will be, these 4 buckets. And Rick, I'll use you as the example. Let me have a look. Have I got your, let me find your spreadsheet. Just closed it. There we go, 2018 content. Let's use one example. Here's what happened the day I woke up and gave myself permission, which is a really good example. And you've actually, Rick, you've done this to a degree. You've got the themes: confusion, unexpected perfection, permission, and so on and so forth. Really great start with that one. Let's assume that here's what happened the day I woke up and gave myself permission is a monthly theme. what you could do is you could break it down into 4 different things. So week 1, you could do a tutorial. Okay, here's a step-by-step tutorial on how to tell your parents that you don't want to go to university. Like a tutorial or, you know, something along those lines. Might be a different audience, but you get the point. But that's a tutorial, guaranteed to be coming out on the first week of the month. What you've done there might be a case study on yourself. So how I did this, you know, what I did and how it affected me. So that could be a case study. Then you could do like a versus thing on the 3rd week of the month, which is actually, here's how Trump came out and gave himself permission versus how normal, non-narcissistic numpties do it. You know, so you've kind of got that comparison. And then the 4th week might be something like the 10-minute takeover or something. All right, look, John Smith from Arizona, he wrote in and he said he was struggling with this. John, here's me talking to you directly and giving you 10 minutes coaching on a vlog or on a podcast episode. So figure out what these buckets will be. And there could be anything from, like, if you're a cooking channel, it might be like 10 minutes, 10-minute recipes, or how to get your kids to eat something, or, recipes for cooking on a Friday night when you really don't want to cook, but you don't want to order in. You know, so you've kind of got these different ways of doing this. You can do it in a couple of ways. You can do it kind of thematically, almost kind of where you started going, Rick, with that, where it's thematic stuff. So it might be something like a vulnerable Thursday, or week 1 is vulnerable week, and then week 2 is permission week, and then week 3 is perfection week. You know, so you kind of break it down like that. Or with Andrea, you could do something very parenting oriented, where it might be something like week 1 is always how to stop a tantrum. You know, that kind of thing, or how to deal with difficult news. That's week 2, or how to have the difficult conversations. You know, it might be Conversation Friday or something. Raf, with you, leaving to live in, you know, this is perfect. And, you know, week 1 might be something. Here's a hard truth about leaving the military. That's week 1. It's always a hard truth. It's the serve. You've been served the truth. And then week 2 might be something like, okay, here's actually something like a quick tip. Like, did you know that when you leave your military, you're allowed to get these 10 benefits, and here are the 3 forms that you need to fill in to get it. You know, so there are a few ways to do this. So that's the challenge for this week, is to come up with some buckets. And then what we'll do, we're going to take those themes, and then we're going to fill those buckets. If you do 4 buckets, we're going to use 1 theme per month. And we're going to basically take that 1 theme and cut it into 4 pieces. And we're going to put a different piece in a different bucket. So then you've basically got content throughout the entire year. And then next week, we're going to talk about developing that a little bit further and making sure people join the email list and all that sort of stuff. Does that kind of make sense? I know I've rambled on like I normally do. But does that kind of make sense?
No, that's really good. My mind is just popping right now. This is good.
Good. And it's not a new concept. It's just something that no one really does. I've seen it 3 or 4 times in books and seminars and all sorts of things over the last few months. You know, it just crops back up every now and again. But it's sort of like thinking as a marketer. Like, how would you go about a campaign? Well, you'd bucket things off. You'd say this messaging is for this type of person to talk about this kind of problem. We've just got to bring that to a more macro level for you guys and say, actually, the whole audience needs to hear this stuff. But here are the very 4 simple buckets that we can break it down into.
And here's something, Mark, that I'll share with the group that I started getting a little bit of nervous, you know, and you calm me down. I'm a better internet area, so I hope I'm not breaking up. But I told you earlier that you have a way of calming me down, because in my mind I started gearing on this word launch. And I found out that there is a big military podcaster in this area. And I didn't know about it, right? So it's kind of like you don't know what you don't know, or ignorance is bliss, right? So up until I didn't know this individual existed, I was like, yeah, we're going to do this launch. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Well, his name came into my crosshairs, and I looked him up. This guy's been blowing it up for about 9 months. So he started like in February of this year. And everybody that I already kind of had on my to interview list, he's already got them. He's like on episode 59 or 60. This guy's just blasting through it, right? But what I have to tell myself, and this is where I tell you the value of what we're having here is that guy's just doing a podcast. That's it. Just a podcast, talk show. That's 10 years ago, right? That's 7 years ago. And even though my show has not been released and we're still in development and actually nothing's out there, what we're developing here with this mindset that you're instilling in us, it's a whole different game. And I don't see too many people doing this. And that's what I have to tell myself. All right, Serve's not been out there. This guy's killing it. But all he is doing is just a talk show. And there are tons of talk shows. So the competition for that is grown dramatically. I tell you, I go on mute and then they start talking. So the audience for just normal talk show / podcast, internet audio is just getting, I don't want to say saturated, but that's just growing. But what you're teaching us here, I'm not seeing a lot of that. Even with the big players, like even with like what you were talking about last time, Pat Flynn, I was kind of checking him out. It's like he's just now touching this stuff that you're talking about. JLD is kind of getting in this direction, but so I wanted to share with the group that in my analysis, it's sort of these things is that I think we're at the tip of the spear here on something different. And a lot of these new players that are joining, because apparently in the startup world, they're all, let's do podcasts. That's how I know this guy it was from a startup thing. And, but they're just doing what podcasters were doing 5 to 6 years ago. Mm-hmm. So anyways, I just want to let you know that kind of calmed myself down, got me back focused, got me back in the saddle, kind of settled in and thought, all right, yeah, you are going to release the Serve radio show, but there's going to be a lot more to it, and it's going to be a lot more dynamic. So anyways, just want to throw that there. That's
good, man. Yeah, and it's all about building the brand. You know, Jess and I are working on a book which is going to tie in with what we're doing with launching some new product stuff and our hosting stuff and everything that goes alongside that. And that is basically all about this stuff. You know, it's building up audio influence and building a brand around audio, not just being a podcaster. That's the big difference. So yeah, I mean, it's the difficult thing is sticking to that process and planning the year out. You know, so we want to, over the next couple of weeks, want to talk about the development process, how to take that and develop that on a little bit. You know, less. At least there is. See, that is much better looking than you, Raph. You know, there we go.
There they are, right there. They're like
everyone's there.
Yeah, well, just two of them. Not everybody.
Oh, that's a bear. Oh, that's a bear.
No, that's a panda. Ethan's got this thing where he's watched on YouTube where you wear this panda head while we're riding in the car.
Oh, wow.
So like when we're going through the drive-through, he rolls down the window and nods. And I'm like, what are you doing? Take that panda head off. Oh, you see the little panda head.
That's brilliant. But
so they just ride around with this big panda head. And I'm like, come on, guys, stop that.
Is it from Dude Perfect?
Exactly it. You got it. Andrea's got it. Yeah, apparently there's something they watched, Dude Perfect, and then, you know, I don't get it.
That's what my son's going to be for Halloween.
Wow.
He's got a Dude Perfect shirt with the panda head.
The panda, well, there it is.
Yeah, that's funny.
The trends, yeah.
I don't get any of this stuff, you kids.
I don't either. Well, you know what? Here's one, Mark, that I think that you might want to do a little research on that is very, very, very strange to me. My kids, I'm talking all of them, even the littlest ones, all of them, all 5 of them, from 10 to 2. They like watching YouTube channels of other people playing video games.
Oh, I don't get that. People do that.
I don't get that at all. I'm talking hours. Like when I need them quiet, I can't put the cartoons on, but I know if I put a YouTube channel of some guy playing a video game, they sit there and watch it. And I'm thinking, that is so bizarre, but there is something to that I don't understand. But how do we, anyway, so I'm just throwing that out there. I don't get it, but it's something. And that's something. It's going to be a wave that we're going to have to try to catch and understand.
It is weird. It is very weird. I've seen that myself. I don't understand it. Yeah, that is all. So, like I said, what we're going to do next week, we're going to talk about content development processes, and you can take that. See you later in a bit. What was that? I just went to high five Keith. He went to fist bump, so we ended up in some weird. It's happened again. This is ridiculous. Right, we'll do a high five. This is ridiculous. See you later, dude. You don't get that with a dog, do you, Andrea? They don't want petting, that's it. It's nice and easy. Little pat. Bless. That's a cute dog. So we're going to, next week, do the content development process, and you can dig into that as deep as you want to. I'll give you the full process that we do, and then you can take from that what you want. So there'll be some kind of homey, worky stuff next week, and then the week after, it's going to be bringing it all together and literally planning out the year's worth of content. What I want to try and get done is that by the end of this year, you know exactly what you're doing for all of the content for next year, but actually you've probably got a lot of it done as well. So that when it gets to April next year, you're like, that's it, I'm finished, that's it. All I need to do is just market this stuff now. And every time I talk about it, I know what I'm talking about and when I'm talking about it. So you can just, next year should be building and marketing all of this stuff, rather than being on the back foot and trying to create it all and then talk about it, but then have to get back to create the next thing. So we can use this process for the future. Use it next year in October. Start doing this again, and then the following October, just start doing this again. So, any thoughts on that? Anything that's not quite clear? Anything that is going to pose an issue with that? I know, Rick, you've probably done some of this before as well. So, if there's any insights that you've got on, just about what you've done well in the past, what's not worked, like getting ahead. Just to speak to that point, I think you've got to be careful when you get too far ahead. You've got to remember to do the work on marketing it. I think a lot of people create a lot of things in advance and batch everything, then don't market it. They'll just not sell it. They just, look at that, I published it and it's great and it's done. So I don't know if you've found that, Rick, when you've batched stuff in the future, but you can sort of forget to do what you need to do with it.
Yeah, I think it. Well, there's that, and then also if you get too far into the future, if something comes up that's more prevalent, then you got to kind of figure out, okay, well, how do I work that in? Where do I work it in? So like right now, I'm not recording any podcasts other than my Friday ones. I'm not even allowing the Friday ones to get recorded until the week up, because I'm finding that if I do it in the week, then I can actually talk to something kind of prevalent going on. But the good thing is because I can do that now, I can look at like this week. So like this week for the podcast, the theme is going to be, hold on, I can tell you because I don't have it right here in front of me, but I think it's confusion. And I think it's a really, really powerful thing to talk about this week, especially for here in the US as we go into the elections, that there's a lot of confusion. Are we a country divided? Are we a country at war? Are we, I can go off and rant on this. So it's good to have that there. And I'm going to tie it to the topic, which is the more you sit in confusion, the more bullshit you feed yourself. And so I think that's the good thing about not working too far out. The hard part is, yes, if you don't get it worked out, then you're always creating. So I know for me, this being tied to a weekly column is going to help me.
Yeah.
It also could hinder me sometimes, because then I'm like, okay, what the frick do I want to write about? But now that I have everything laid out for an entire year, I feel like, the 4 buckets thing I got to play with, because I feel like I've kind of already got it to some degree, but I know where you're going. So, we may have to take that conversation offline. But I can look at my list here and I know that come January, the whole focus in January is going to be about fear, however that shows up. I've got lots of stuff to choose from, but I know I can work the whole thing around fear. I can do four rants and riffs around different kinds of fear, and I can write articles for Good Man Project around whatever fears are showing up. I can do it in the business world. So now that I know the core theme, it's going to be much easier to go. And I know for Good Man Project, I'm going to have to work 2 weeks ahead of time. That's what I already know. So I have to work 2 weeks out for them, because that's kind of how it's going to go down the editing pipeline, which will probably just become my standard way to work for everything. I'll work 2 weeks out for my personal blog. I'll work 2 weeks out on my rants and riffs. As I got 2 new guests for the podcast, both of them are going to record and they're going to show up in December. And the December stuff is really about owning it, leaning in, that sort of stuff, and confidence, and showing up and taking action. Well, ironically, both of them are talking about, one gal's podcast is going to come out. It's about confidence. And the other one is about showing up and taking action. I hadn't really been looking at it closely, but when I got both of them to commit, it was just ironic to me that those last 2 slots of the year, that's exactly how it lined up. So there's almost like this intuitiveness that shows up, and you know what you're looking for. Mm-hmm. Because now I can, as I start to line up podcast guests for January, I know the theme is going to be around fear. So if I can find some people with some really good shows around, stories and stuff, or books or whatever it might be, then everything starts to gel and come together, and it distills it down.
Yeah.
I got lots of fear I could talk about.
We all do.
We all definitely do. No, that's a good way to do it, man. I think interestingly there as well, you can get as specific as you want with that one. So, like what you mentioned there is your thematic kind of approach is to go quite broad and say, okay, it's fear-based. Okay, this is what I'm talking about. But actually, you can take that as specific as you want and find a groove that works best for you. Like with you, Raf, you might want to go very specific on it. So unless it's not leaving to living, it's not even just a leaving bit. It's actually, I'm going to do a month's worth of content on exactly what to do, like the morning of the day that you wake up and you're not in the military anymore. Like that is it. Or something about getting the right benefits that you're owed, and like just the logistical pieces, like really tight theming versus kind of, okay, it's broad. So I think it's just, you got to find that rhythm for you guys, for each individual set of things that you're doing. Rick, I think you can afford to be a little bit more broad because you're kind of doing some op-ed stuff as well. Andrew, I think you've got to be a little bit more specific in what you're doing. And Raf, I think you've got to be quite specific in what you're doing as well, because you two are moving people through a process a little bit.
Right. And for me, that's what I've noticed, that the broad exists. There's tons of people doing sort of the high level, but no one's getting in the weeds and actually, helping people hand by hand, hold their hands through the 2 years before through the 2 years after process. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, we got a 4-year span, 2 before, 2 after, and we got content for years on end.
Yeah, there's so much. That's the thing. You should never run out of content.
Yeah.
But to the focus, I think the reason I can go a little broader too, and I remember Dory Clark saying this to me years ago. She said, I can't remember all her books, but she's brilliant, love her, and she said, go narrow and deep and then go broad. Well, I feel like I've gone narrow and deep for the last 5 or 6 years, so now I can go broad, but it's a very calculated broad. So it is going to still be, for the most part, around, in some ways it's going to be targeted towards men, but when I step into the life uncloseted world, it can be, how does anybody live their life uncloseted? But when I'm doing some of this stuff, some of the writing is going to be very targeted toward men. What is your fears? Why do men get so confused? Why do men struggle with handling more than women? What are the things that men perceive as perfection in their mind that is complete because of how they've been. So it's interesting to know when you can start to do this. And maybe it's because I'm working with Grant now too. I'm constantly coaching new speakers coming in. Seems like every time, no, you need to go narrow before you go broad. And so I think that's helping me too. Like, okay, where do I go narrow in Good Men Project? Where do I go narrow if I write something for LinkedIn? But if I go to Medium, how can I write something that's a broad brush stroke to get that notice there, but know where my narrow markets are? I think that's the key too.
Yeah, and knowing where your markets are, I think, is important when it comes to this theming. So not only the theming, but also the types of content, like that links to everything. Like there's no point creating a 30-minute piece of content that, you're branding, it's all nice and it's an amazing book, like 30-minute tutorials, if your audience are moms that are just going to get 5 minutes at 8 p.m. on a Thursday night to quickly look at this. Right. It's knowing where they are, what the behaviors are, what they want to do. So that's actually a really good point, is making sure that the content you're doing is not for you. And the buckets aren't just because you've seen someone else do them. It's coming up with that kind of, okay, these guys are going to do this thing at this time. And starting to just understand the behaviors a little bit. So that's a good point, man. I think that's really important to just consider when you're building these out. Right, we'll stick a pin in it in a.
And the other thing too, that's going to be the other thing that's a little challenging. I'll throw this one out there. This is something that's totally me, and I just don't know if I can get away with it. But the first bucket that came up for me was to literally do like a Facebook, call it Facebook Live, but really what it would be is a Fuck It Friday. What are all these things we need to start saying fuck it to? I don't know if I can get away with that on Facebook, but we will see. So, yeah.
And I love the idea of branding it like that and being as like, you could get away with doing something like that because you've got that boldness. It's about that life uncloseted. It's about doing the things that other people are a little bit uncomfortable with. Like if we tried to do that, it just wouldn't fit with the brand. But I think you can get away with that style thing. Like Andrew, if you did it, I don't think it'd work. But Raf, maybe. But the point is that you got to stick in your lane with it a little bit. But at the same time, you've got to push the boundaries of what's going on there because no one's going to notice if you're just grey. No one's going to notice that. So when you're coming up with these buckets, like what's everyone else doing? What are they all putting out? And try and do something that hits what they want, but isn't just the same old stuff. That's going to be interesting. There's opportunity to do it. It's just thinking creatively about it and think this is where you can look inward. A lot of people say create your avatar, but for you guys, actually, for all of you, you are your own avatar for a lot of the time. Andrea, your avatar is you 4 years ago. X years ago, however long ago it is. Raf, that's you when you left. It's you going through the process. So think about that. So we'll wrap it up. I'm gonna do the stuff that I was gonna do earlier. Or AWeber got me. But thanks for being so flexible, guys. So if you get those buckets to me, same thing. If you can get them to me by Friday, drop it in the Slack DMs channels like you all did last week. Raf, if you get a chance, try and get through some of the other stuff as well. Just have a look at some of the questions. I'll be in the US on the East Coast on Thursday afternoon, Friday time. So I'll be a little bit more localized for things like office hours and stuff. And then the Mastermind next week, 11 a.m. Eastern, and we'll stick to the normal on that one. So if you need anything in the meantime, just hit me up in Slack as normal.
Hey, Marge lives in Boston.
Oh, does she?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
And guess what? She's going to be a co-facilitator of my workshop remotely, along with this other guy, Alan Kites.
Nice.
So the three of us are I'll be the face, I'll be there live, but they're going to be virtual. And we're collaborating. If it gets accepted, I'll know in a month.
I'm sure it will. And if it doesn't, you'll be there next year. Their loss.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? It's a win-win, honestly. Yeah. It's courage. A bold move for me to just go out there and submit it. So
yeah, you weren't even thinking in that space this time last year. So
no,
yeah,
I couldn't. Health-wise, I couldn't.
Yeah.
I'm doing way better.
No, it's a big step. Well done. No, I'm pleased about that. And when did you hear about that? So did you say was it?
Mid-November.
Right. Okay. Not long then.
Yeah.
Good. Right, team. Let's wrap that. We'll chat in Slack. Like I said, everyone's been really active in Slack this week, so that's good. Keep it flying. And let's just keep chatting and doing what we do.
Cool.
Dude, perfect.
All right, have a safe flight.
Thank you. Did you say dude perfect?
Okay. Bye. Break on 3.
Break on 3.
Break on.